So have you ever found yourself in a situation to where the walls are not square to each other? Most cases they're not going to be. In our case, they're not. This is an older home, and so the walls are not 90-degree square. And so with being able to fit shelves in here, you don't necessarily want them to be tight in the back and loose up front. You want to be able to take the time to be able to what is called scribing the wall, so you could scribe your shelf to be able to fit the wall. So it fits nice and snug in both the back and on the front side. And I'm going to take you through the steps that I used to accomplish that for these shelves. So one of the first things that you'll want to do or need is I went ahead and just got some poster board. I have it big enough that it extends the depth of the alcove that we are fitting the shelves into, so you can get your full mark for the full depth, as you'll see in the steps that we'll take. You'll also just want a piece of wood that is square in both the directions around, and then we'll use that to scribe along the wall with the construction paper. So the first step that I take is that I make sure that the poster board is sitting flush against the back wall. I'm not concerned about it being flush along here. The first thing that you'll want to end up doing is taking a pencil, and then you'll mark a little tick on the wall, and then right in the same spot put a number 1 by that. Next thing, you'll take your piece of wood and you'll set it up against the wall, and you don't need to worry about this back corner being flush or sitting against that. You're scribing against this wall right here. And so what you'll do is you'll take your marking tool, mechanical pencil, you'll run a mark along there, and then you'll just keep moving it right along extend it all the way for the length here. Now the purpose of putting the little tick here and the mark here is so when we go to move it over, and we're going to do the same thing on this side, and get your poster board up against the back of the wall. You don't need to worry about this, and this is already showing the difference from the back corner back there and how different this wall is right here. So with making this first mark right here, you're going to actually then use the same mark right here on the wall and just put yourself another mark right there and label that number 2. And so that technique right there is giving you your width of the alcove for when you go out to mark on the plywood. That determines your width. And you'll go ahead and do the same thing with your piece of wood over on this side. Just keep running it along. And after you have completed those steps, you can then take this out to your shop or wherever you are working at, and use this to lay out on your plywood to mark your shelf. So the first thing that you would want to do after you scribe your wall with this setup is that you want to line it up, leave yourself enough room that you're going to trim off on this side. And what you're going to do is your first mark right here, so after you lay it out and mark on your plywood on your number 1 spot, you'll then want to line up the same piece that you used to scribe the wall, and you want to just set that on your line, and then just keep working your way first mark is right here, and your second one's right here, and you want to line up your second mark where you placed the first mark. Line up the edges like so, and repeat the same process along this line. So you'll have your first scribe line along this edge, and then this is your second line right here, and then set up your saw and make your cuts. A lot of people, or most, would use a jigsaw to be able to follow along the line. Right there's my line. I do have the track saw set up just to show that if I would set the track saw right there, I would cut in and away from my line, which would then mess up the scribe. So if you had a jigsaw, you would just follow right along your line, and that would turn out good. Unfortunately, I do not have a jigsaw to use to do this. So let me show you what I do. So I will set up my first line and cut right along and keep it to where the line then disappears, which is right there. So I will just cut on the track all the way along here, and then the rest of the material will still be left over. So now I'll start right here and then follow with the track saw along this line. And then what you want to end up doing once you get your shelf fit in from the underneath is put a scribe where it's going to rest. Go to the other side, and this is looking up from the underneath. And then you'll want to take that back out and trim from your track saw from there to there, lining up your track with that. And here is the track saw lined up with the left and right side scribe, and we'll go ahead and trim that. And what you'll have when you go to push your shelf into place is you'll have a nice edge once you've scribed along there and there. Now this is the shelf that we just put in, and you can see how nice and tight that is all along there. Now this is a really older home, so you'll see that there is a slight gap right in there and just a slight one right up in here, and that is just the mud that wasn't filled in completely by the drywaller. if it was brought out more, I think that would have been able to be more tight along there. But it also, if you would use the jigsaw, and you could be able to get that curve with the jigsaw to be able to fit in there, but then you would have to bring the board back up and get it in place over here and over here angled and have it set down and slide it in that way. You wouldn't be able to push it in from here. But on this job, we're not able to do that with these already in place. Over here, we wouldn't be able to get that height up to do that. And this is the very top shelf. And it looks pretty good. And we have pretty good shelves by doing that all the rest of the way down. So I hope you guys were able to follow along the steps that I took to do these shelves for this project. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments, questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.